In 1979, a 24-year-old Steve Jobs walked into a research lab in Palo Alto, California. What he saw there changed everything. In one room, he found a small group of scientists working on a strange, glowing screen. On that screen were windows, icons, and a small arrow that moved when you slid your hand across a little device with a ball inside. It was called a mouse. Jobs couldn't believe what he was seeing. He later said, "It was like a veil lifted from my eyes. I saw the future." But here's the thing, that future didn't belong to Apple. It belonged to Xerox. And Xerox, the company that invented modern computing, gave it away. Welcome to Missed Billions Explained, where we uncovered the billion-dollar mistakes that shaped the modern world. If you love stories about innovation, vision, and corporate arrogance, hit subscribe, because today we're diving into how Xerox invented the future, saw it slip through their fingers, and watched someone else make history. In the 1960s, Xerox was untouchable. They owned the world of office technology. Their invention, the Xerox copier, changed business forever. Every document, memo, and contract went through their machines. The company became a global powerhouse worth billions, with its name so dominant that to Xerox became a verb. But as Xerox grew, something else began to form inside the company, a quiet revolution. They had more money than they could spend, and some executives wanted to use that wealth to explore the future of information. So in 1970, they built a research division in Palo Alto, California, far from corporate headquarters in Connecticut. It was called Xerox PARC, short for Palo Alto Research Center. What they created there was nothing short of magic. Inside PARC, scientists weren't told what to build. They were told to imagine. And imagine they did. In just a few years, PARC researchers invented the graphical user interface, windows, icons, and menus, the computer mouse, Ethernet, the foundation for networking, laser printing, object-oriented programming, which still runs most of modern software. This one lab built nearly every major piece of modern computing. They didn't just predict the future, they prototyped it. But there was one problem. Xerox, the company funding this revolution, had no idea what to do with it. Back at Xerox headquarters, executives were laser-focused on copiers. That was their kingdom, their gold mine, their comfort zone. To them, PARC was an expensive playground for scientists, not a roadmap for the future. When researchers tried to show off the first computer with a mouse, management barely reacted. They couldn't see how moving a cursor on a screen could ever be useful in an office filled with paper. They saw computers as glorified typewriters, not as the future of human communication. They were too busy counting paper profits to notice that their scientists were inventing a world without it. Then came December 1979. Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple, visited Xerox PARC through a deal. Xerox had invested $1 million in Apple in exchange for access to their new technology, so Xerox let him in. Jobs watched as engineers demonstrated something called the Alto, a computer that used a mouse to move icons and open windows on a bright screen. It looked nothing like the blinking text-only machines of the time. It looked human. Jobs was stunned. He immediately recognized what Xerox's executives couldn't. This was the future of personal computing. He ran out of the building, reportedly shouting, "They don't even know what they have." Within months, Apple's engineers were working on what would become the Lisa and later the Macintosh, both inspired directly from Xerox's technology.
When Xerox executives saw Apple's Macintosh unveiled in 1984, some were furious. They felt betrayed, as if Apple had stolen their ideas. But Apple didn't steal anything. Xerox had given it away. The irony is painful. The company that invented the graphical user interface, the mouse, and laser printing, never commercialized any of it. They had the blueprints for the future of computing and buried them under corporate bureaucracy. And when they finally tried to catch up, it was already too late. In 1981, Xerox launched the Xerox Star, their first commercial personal computer based on PARC's ideas. It had windows, icons, a mouse, and even a graphical desktop. Years before Windows or Mac OS. It was beautiful, it was powerful, and it completely failed. Why? Because it cost $16,000, and Xerox tried to sell it to corporations as an office accessory, not to individuals as a revolution. The company that invented personal computing didn't understand personal computing. By the late 1980s, Xerox's computer division was gone. They returned to what they knew: copiers, printers, and paper. Meanwhile, Apple built a global empire on ideas born in Xerox's lab. Microsoft followed, refining those ideas into Windows, and the rest is history. Xerox still exists today, but not as a tech giant. Just a name, a memory of what might have been. They didn't lose to Apple or Microsoft. They lost to their own imagination gap. What if Xerox had believed in PARC? What if they'd understood that information itself, not paper, was the product of the future? They had everything: money, talent, patents, and a decade's head start. They could have owned the entire digital age: computers, software, printers, networks. They could have been Apple, Microsoft, and HP combined. Instead, they let fear and arrogance bury innovation. They were too busy protecting the old to see that the new had already arrived. Xerox's downfall reveals something universal about innovation. The more successful you are, the harder it is to change, because success creates comfort. Comfort creates blindness, and blindness kills vision. Xerox didn't fail because they were behind. They failed because they were ahead and didn't know what to do with it. They invented the mouse, but didn't see its power. They invented the interface, but never imagined it in a home. They built the first digital network, but never connected to the world. They had the keys to the future and locked the door. Today, Xerox PARC is remembered as one of the greatest research labs in history. Its influence shaped every modern computer, phone, and operating system. Every time you drag a file, open a window, or click an icon, you're using Xerox's invention. But for most people, the name Xerox doesn't mean innovation. It means photocopiers. That's the tragedy. They built the digital world, but never lived in it. When Steve Jobs reflected on that day at Xerox PARC, he said, "If Xerox had known what they had, and had taken it and exploited it, they could have been the company that changed the world." But they didn't. Because innovation doesn't just depend on ideas, it depends on vision. Xerox had the best minds in the world, but no one willing to believe in them. And so, they handed the future to someone who did. Thanks for watching Missed Billions Explained. If you enjoyed this story, hit like, subscribe, and tell us which forgotten innovation you want us to explore next. Because somewhere right now, another company is sitting on the next big idea and ignoring it.